Name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Welcome to another Friday. Uh, February is here. January flew by. I hope you all had a good month. And I am dressed like this because of the cold. But today we're going to be covering chapter 16 in the order of Revelation. It's Surah At-Takathur, which means the piling up, competition for more, competition for increase, rivalry. It has a few meanings. And I'm going to be using the Urdu translation for it first, and then the English one, because I kind of want to illustrate how it is said. And my apologies to people who don't understand Urdu, but there's a huge population in Pakistan and India who understand the language. And if they're watching, I'd love for them to hear this. But I'll also cover this in the English translation too. So last week you saw we covered the shortest chapter of the Quran, and we looked through it again and again. We saw how it was important and how it related to previous chapters. So the time or the context is just the same. Muhammad, peace be upon him, is still in Mecca. He's still just gathering people around. Um, and and if you recall, maybe you don't recall, but because of your knowledge of history, you would know that that time was dominated by tribes. You had tribes which would boast about how much money they have, how much wealth they have, how much power they have. So at that time, um, there were two big tribes that were competing with each other in terms of power, in terms of their strength. And this addresses them, but it also addresses man in general, or human beings in general. So this chapter is divided in three sections. The first third talks about how men spend their life on the earth seeking things, seeking wealth, and seeking what the world can give them. And then it talks about the judgment day, which will remind them of the mistakes that they've made. And the final section talks a bit about the consequences of hellfire. So I'm going to read it in Urdu, then I'll move to English. So just bear with me. अल्लाह के नाम से जो बहुत मेहरबान नहायत रहम करने वाला है। गाफिल कर दिया तुम्हें बाहम कसरत की ख्वाहिश ने, यहाँ तक कि तुम जा पहुंचे कब्रिस्तानों में। हरगिज नहीं अन करीब तुम जान लोगे, फिर हरगिज नहीं अन करीब तुम जान लोगे। यकीनन अगर तुम जान लोगे यकीन का जानना, तो यकीनन तुम जरूर देखोगे दोज़ख को, फिर यकीनन जरूर देखोगे उसे यकीन की आंख से, फिर यकीनन तुम जरूर सवाल किए जाओगे उस दिन नेमतों की बाबत। Yaqeenan, or yaqeen means to trust, to believe, and Sadaqallahu Azim. And I say it in Urdu because in English you don't get the rhythm, because it's a whole different linguistic structure, which is Latin and Germanic. But the Arabic structure is slightly different, and you see it in Urdu as well. Umda Kavish. Thank you, Manha Haider. I'm surprised I can read the subtitle, read your text, because it's in the Arabic text. But yes, so that's what it means. I'll recite this again. यकीनन अगर तुम जान लो यकीन का जानना, तो यकीनन तुम जरूर देखोगे दोज़ख को, फिर यकीनन तुम जरूर देखोगे उसे यकीन की आंख से. So you see how it's repeated again and again. This is very important because this is the alliteration of the words, is how the message is taken across, like we discussed last time and a few times before that, how it has to be short and sweet, so that if it's recited in front of a non-believer of the religion, they would remember it, because either it's sonorous or it's melodic. Thank you, Alam Khan. Good to hear from you. Thank you so much. So that's why. So this is the Quran that in Urdu, and what's different about this Quran is that it does a word for word translation as opposed to a sentence for sentence. as opposed to my English one. And this is written by, or compiled by, not written by. This is compiled and translated by Hafiz Salahuddin Yusuf and Maulana Muhammad Abdul Jabbar. It was gifted to me by my aunt who lives in Milton. And I'm very grateful for this because whenever I'm struggling with the English one, I come to the Urdu one, and when I struggle with this one, I come to this one, and I'm always moving in between translations and transliterations to understand it. So you see how yaqeen, that was repeated again and again and again. So in English, it goes like this. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. The mutual rivalry for piling up of worldly things diverts you until you visit the graves, which means till you die. I love how it's stated as you visit the grave, because in common lexicon, death means the end of something, but here it is conceptualized as a visit, and a visit by definition is bound by time. It is not eternal, and visiting the grave indicates that that visit is temporary. It is not forever and ever and ever. It happens, it's a fleeting moment, and then it disappears. And that fleeting moment is obviously, there's a time warp there depending on how long it goes for. But that's what it says here. Until you visit the graves, till you die. Nay, you shall come to know. Again, nay, you shall come to know. Nay, if you knew with a sure knowledge the end result of piling up, you would not have been occupied yourselves in worldly things. Verily, you shall see the blazing fire of hell, and again you shall see it with certainty of sight. Then on that day you shall be asked about the delights you indulged in this world. Sadaqallah al-Azim. That is the chapter. So you see how it's divided. But if you understood the Urdu version, if you're from India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or if you just, or Afghanistan even, and you understand the Urdu, or you understood the rhythm of it, yaqeenan, the way that it's rhythmically repeating is absent from the English translation, but the message is still the same. You shall come to know all the things that you acquire in this world to make yourself stronger, older, wiser, richer, wealthier. None of them are going to help you when it comes to the blazing fire. So again, we see this dualistic message in the Quran, don't we? One message is about help the poor, help the weak, help the orphans, look after them, compassionate, love, light, beauty, flowers, trees, suns, clouds, water, all of that beautiful imagery. And the other is reminding them or informing them that there is a hell, and if you don't fix your bad habits, that hell is waiting for you. Now, that's an interesting literary device that we've seen in the Bible, and we've seen in the Vedas, and I don't know the Torah as well, so I can't comment on it, but we've seen that literary device in many places where one is talking about the beauty of the world and how wonderful it is and how you can help people and be compassionate, and the other is talking about if you don't fix your actions, you will repent in the hellfire. So now, this little Quran that I love narrates a story, and I'm going to read the story out to you. It is regarding the last verse where it says, then on that day you shall be asked about the delights you indulged in this world. So what does it mean, the delights? So it's narrated by Abu Huraira. Once during a day or a night, God's messenger came out and found two of his closest companions, Abu Bakr and Umar, who became the next in line after the Prophet passed away, the first and the second caliph. He said, what has brought you out of your homes at this hour? They replied, hunger, O God's messenger. Just pause right here. I can't think of that time. Thank God my fridge is stacked. Thank God I have food cooking in the oven right now. But imagine the time you come out at night because you're like, God, I'm hungry. Lord, I need to get some food. And it's day or night, and you come out looking for that food. It's insane. It's such a different time. Hunger, O God's messenger, they said. He said, by God, in whose hand my soul is, I too have come out for the same reason for which you have come out. So, Muhammad, peace be upon him, was also hungry, as we all are every single day of our lives. Then the Prophet said to them both, come along. And he went along with them to a man, but did not find him at his house. So they spoke to his wife and said, where is so and so? After she said, you're welcome to our house, he said, where is so and so? And she said, well, he's gone to fetch some water for us. And while they waited, he came back and he was all jubilant and happy. And he said, all the praises and thanks be to God. Today there is none superior to me as regards guests. Which means I value the guests that have showed up at my house. This is a different time. Today we need to either book an appointment. I can't even drop in unannounced to my neighbors mostly without having established some formal connection. I think it's a side effect of social media. Then he went and brought a part of a bunch of date fruit, some green, some ripe, some fully ripe, and he gave them some fruit to eat. He then took out his knife to slaughter a sheep for them, and the Prophet said, no, do not slaughter a milch sheep. So he slaughtered a sheep properly and prepared the meal for its meat. They ate from the sheep and that bunch of dates and drank water. After they had finished eating and drinking to the fill, God's messenger, Prophet Muhammad, turned to his companions, Abu Bakr and Umar, and said, by him in whose hand my soul is, you will be asked about this street on the day of resurrection. He, God, brought you out of your homes with hunger, and you're not returning to your homes till you have been blessed with this street. And this has been recited in Sahih Muslim in the book of drinks. So this is an important story, because I'll come to this concept later, because I've struggled with it for 16 years of my life. There's this concept in Islam and in South Asia, in the Muslim community, that a person's sustenance, which in Urdu or even Arabic we would translate to rizq, razaq, his sustenance is already written for him. And every human being, every soul comes into the world with their sustenance confirmed. And I grew up in England. I have a problem with this mode of thought. Does that mean if you sit at home and do nothing, will you keep getting your food? That's the first thought. Does that mean if you put in no effort, will you get the food? Why work then? Why bother putting in any effort if I'm going to be well fed? So that is a topic that I've struggled with. And as I've grown older, I've started realizing how it makes sense. Because at the end of the day, I'm a positivist, I'm a rationalist. So I approach all problems like this, all concerns or all topics. And with wisdom, I'm starting to understand. I'm not saying I'm wise. What I'm saying is, with age comes some wisdom. And with that some wisdom, I'm starting to see how time plays an aspect in these things, and how stimulus and consequence are not related linearly. They're related bilinearly. They both affect each other. So if you come out of your house in hunger, somewhere there is a person who's willing to cook for you and give you lunch or dinner and feed you. And that is the system of the world. I remember, I forget which messenger, which prophet it was. I don't know if it was Solomon or if it was Prophet Muhammad, when this topic about sustenance was widely discussed. And he took a stone and he broke the stone open, and in that stone was an insect chewing on a piece of leaf. And that indicated that God feeds all the creation. And you can say the same about trees and insects and birds and mammals and reptiles and humans. You can say it about all of us. and also about mountains and about clouds and skies. God feeds all of it. And if you can go beyond the globe, you can look at all aspects. And my mother has been saying this to me since I was 5 or something, because my mother is my oldest and greatest teacher. Um, she said that if the stomach wasn't attached to the human body, we wouldn't do most of what we have done, because hunger drives us. Imagine Neanderthals or Homo erectus or even Homo sapiens, which we've been for 180,000 years. Imagine them not having to hunt for food. Imagine them being pleasantly satiated wherever they are, because that was also a time. I forget which messenger it's related to, but this dish of manu salva was provided to them, and this indicates the nature of man, nature of human beings. We're never satisfied. So my mother used to say, this thing that is attached to us drives us. So if you're hungry and you go outside your house looking for food, somewhere the food is waiting for you. So that's one line. But think of it this way as well. That food has been created, temporally speaking, in this point and line of time, because someone somewhere has to come and eat it. That is how the balance is described temporally. And it took me a long time to understand it. And I can't say I understand it fully even now, because I'm a rationalist at the end of the day and I start questioning. But point of time and time linearity, or the long present, as my professor says, is a different mentality. So this is an example of that. You came out of your house looking for that food out of hunger, and that food is somewhere waiting for you. Happens in love. If you're waiting for your soulmate, somewhere there is a soulmate. I'm not saying soulmates are created one, but somewhere there is a person who will align with you. The same goes for a job. If you're hunting for work, many times you feel dejected and rejected, like, I'm not getting the work. But it's also more to do with your standards of what you believe you deserve. There are always jobs that people can do. There are jobs that people just choose not to do. And fair enough. There's a debate to be had there. Same goes for food, same goes for house, same goes for everything. Things are written and we have to get to them. But to get to them, we need to have the desire to go there in the first place. And that's what's been discussed here. But I digress. What we were discussing are the delights given to you in the world. So this wonderful feast that Prophet Muhammad and his companions devoured or ate and enjoyed, they will have to be mindful of that. No, I want to use the exact word. They will be questioned about it. What did he say? You will be asked about this street. So they have to be responsible for it. Like, this is what they've done. And one way of being responsible is, if somebody feeds you, if somebody buys you dinner, you either buy them dinner again, or you buy someone else dinner. You pay it forward. And I quite enjoy the paying it forward mentality, because that's karmic. That's karma. And you pay it forward, and it creates a whole cycle and chain which expands globally and universally, and you can do that. So you'll pay for those delights. That's an important message. But this is a short chapter which was very contextual to inform these warring tribes that they don't know that all the wealth that they boast about and all the wealth that they acquire is not going to prevent them from hellfire. But please, if you can, I feel bad for people who don't understand the languages, because I understand multiple languages, and the way something is said in a particular language is very, very, very important. Translation is just that. It's a translation. So if you can find a way to hear the Urdu translation or understand Urdu slightly better, or the Arabic, I would really urge you to do so, because the Quran is an example of exemplary poetry. Exemplary poetry. I have to tell you, and I can't, and I wish that more people are able to see it. Robert Berry, lovely to see you, my brother. Love Robert Berry. Please follow. Wait, I'm going to put his name up. And Robert, normally this is just for religious stuff, but this is Robert Berry. Um, it wouldn't be unfair to say that I love this gentleman. He's like an older brother to me, and anytime I'm conflicted about something, he's one of the first few people I go to. Although we've never met, but we've become very close in this online quarters. And when the pandemic dies down, I'm going to take a trip. I'm going to rent a pickup truck from Montreal and drive all the way down to wherever he lives. Not disclosing your location, Robert. That's your prerogative. But please follow him and listen to him. He has some wonderful, wonderful things to say. But yeah, thank you for commenting. Thank you for saying hi, Robert. So yeah, we'll stop right here. And next week we are looking at Surah Maun, which is also one of the last arranged chapters of the Quran. And some of it was revealed in Mecca, and some of the other was revealed in Medina. I enjoy your religious content. Thank you, sir. We should do a collaboration on this. We can discuss God all the time. But yes, next week we're discussing Surah Maun. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful Friday, and have a wonderful February. I hope your January was good, was to your liking, and I hope your February is even better. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next week.